If you're dealing with debt, you know how frustrating it can be, and so do we. We're Family Credit Management, and over the past 20 years, our experts have helped thousands of families conquer their debt. What we do is work with you and your creditors to find a customized solution to your finances. Isn't it time you took control of your financial future? As one of the nation's largest nonprofit credit counseling agencies, we're trusted experts who can really help. But you must take the first step.
Hey, good evening. We are back another week. My name is Letitia Griffin, and I am here with you today to talk to you about any types of issues that you may be having regarding your debt, regarding finances, dealing with your credit report. We talk a lot about that because it is so extremely important. So over the next few minutes, like I said, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. If you've got any thoughts, concerns, anything you want to share, anything that you've been through that you want to share with us, feel free to call. And you can speak with us at 312-738-1060. Now, if you do not get the opportunity to call, or if you think of something after the show, or even right now, if you aren't comfortable going on the air talking to someone, I want to let you know you can reach out to Family Credit at 800-994-3328 and chat with a counselor by dialing that phone number. Now, you can also go online to Family Credit's website at familycredit.org, and you can chat with a counselor there too. Now, using the chat feature, you can ask any questions that you have. You can get your questions answered and just find whatever resources you need to help you out of your situation. Please do not be afraid to reach out because you never know what information you can get that can help you. We've talked a lot about your credit report, how to keep things looking good. We've talked about rebuilding, so we'll touch a little bit on your credit report because, like I said, that is extremely important. And we want you to get a good grasp on your credit because credit is really the only way that you're able to advance and to have things in life. And it's sad to say, but we do rely largely on our credit. You've got lenders that are looking at it. You've got insurance companies. You've got employers that look at it. Everyone is looking at your credit report. So it's best for you to try and keep it together as best as you can, as best as you know how. And that's what we're here for, to help teach you and guide you on the proper ways to clean up, to maintain, and if you're falling behind, to restore your credit and to do it the right way. There's so many different scams out there that I do want you guys to be cautious of trying to do anything that sounds, typically what I always say is anything that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So I've talked to some consumers or some clients out there that have gone through and have tried to deal with, their credit on their own. And I see people all the time saying, well, I'm just working to get my credit back together. I'm going to make things better. Want you to keep in mind, if you're looking at making your credit better or you're trying to get things better, you can do it on your own, or you can do it with the help of a counselor. That's how you get it together. Be careful of those scams that are out there that are preying on people, promising to help them erase their credit or to help them fix their credit, and then you get so many red flags with that too. So we want you to take some time out, learn how to do things the right way, either on your own, which there's a lot of good tools out there that we can help you with. Also, you can contact a counselor at familycredit.org to get some helpful tips on how you can control your finances and your credit report. You may ask, why am I mentioning this, or why do I think credit is so important? Again, it touches on everything we do. And the biggest, most recent change that I want you to be aware of is that coming up next year, your credit score not only takes into account what you're doing on your credit, with your finances, with your credit cards, medical bills, trying to control those collection agencies, but guess what? Your credit score is going to have a look at your bank account. So that's why it becomes extremely important to make sure you've got this handled and that you've got your banking relationship together as well. We're watching our spending, watching our account, and keeping an eye on not only our credit profile, but our bank account. And we should be doing that anyway, right? So We want to watch what we're spending, and especially with the holidays coming up, everyone is looking to get the best gift or to spend goo gobs of money on trying to make people happy with purchases and things like that. So you want to look at that. We'll touch a little bit over the next couple of weeks on the sales that are out there. We'll talk about Black Friday coming up and what are some ways that you can make the most out of your money. Looks like we've got our first caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm looking to possibly file bankruptcy. Do you know if it will completely ruin my credit, and if it does, for how long?
A lot of people feel that bankruptcy does completely ruin your credit, but it depends on what you do after you file. Also depends on why you're actually filing. They say that when you file bankruptcy, it's like playing a trump card. You don't want to do it unless you actually have to. That's your last move. Then you go ahead, play that trump card and file bankruptcy. But you want to look at your finances and make sure that there's really no other ways. Rule of thumb you want to look at is, do you have less than $5,000 worth of debt? If you do, you may not want to file. If you've got people garnishing your wages and you've been to court because the garnishments are there or because there's some judgments brought up against you. Now, when I say that, I mean, have you actually received court paperwork? That's when you want to look at possibly talking to someone about filing. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I giving you legal advice. You can get that from an attorney. I am not an attorney, and so I'm not trying to give you legal advice, just give you helpful tips and things to watch out for. So will bankruptcy completely ruin your credit? Like I said, it's up to you with your goals. It will have an impact on your score. If you are burdened with lots of medical bills, lots of collection agencies, and you're getting those harassing phone calls and things like that, then that may be something, again, you want to consider. But you want to look at all of your options. Make sure you weigh out all your options. And you can do that by contacting a counselor and seeing what resources are available, finding out more information about how you file, where you file, those types of things, what resources are out there to avoid you filing. When you file bankruptcy, guess what? It messes up, it changes your credit picture, your overall credit rating with the Bureau, and most of the time it will decrease. Some people see a drastic drop as soon as you file, but keep in mind that filing only affects you for as long as you're not doing anything. So you have to do some positives to counteract the negative there. When you first file, bankruptcy will stay on your report for up to 10 years. But it only looks at the last 24 months worth when you're looking at your credit score. So even though those marks may be on your report, your score only looks like the last 24 months worth. And so if you've got some positives there after you file to counteract that, then you start to see your score rebounding. There's lots of people out there that reestablish themselves quickly after bankruptcy by following helpful tips on how you can keep your finances in order. So think about that when you file. Look at your whole situation. Will it ruin you? That's really up to you. Make sure your score doesn't sit stagnant. Make sure your profile, you keep your eye on it. You're making sure that you are looking at some other options for improving your credit after you file, talking to a counselor, getting your finances on track. Those are some things that you want to do. Make sure that you're able to afford whatever payments you set up. And then if you apply for any loans or credit cards, make sure you pay attention to the terms. Make sure that you know that you can comfortably afford the payment. That's all with keeping your finances together and reestablishing yourself after bankruptcy. Again, 24 months is what your score looks at. And we've been talking about that score, so we want to focus on making your score stronger. How can you do that? First step is making sure that you make your payments on time. Make all of your payments on time. And again, like I say over and over, if you come to the point where you are missing payments, where you're struggling, where you can't afford the payment, always feel free to reach out to the creditors, let them know what's going on. And if you're not able to talk to them directly, there is help out there. People who can point you in the right direction, counselors standing by to actually listen and to help you through. They can help you deal with your creditors and tell you what each creditor can do for you. And we all face problems. We all face those hardship situations. So don't be ashamed to find out more information about how to recover from that. After you looked at your credit, you're working on making your payments on time, make sure that whatever your credit limits are you stay under your credit limits. Stay under half of your credit limit if at all possible. Remember, I've said over and over, you've got to stay under that credit limit. If you can do under 30%, that's what's best for you. And the people with the best scores only use 7% of their available credit. That's like a great rule of thumb to live by. So think about that every time you use that card, every time you're trying to see whether you should make a purchase, if you should apply for something different. 7% of that available credit. If I use $7 for every $100 that I have, then I know that my score will remain solid. So think about that. Think about the type of credit that you have too. Creditors like to see that you have a nice, healthy mix. And what that means is that you don't have just all credit cards. Maybe you've got an auto loan that you throw in there, or you're dealing with a mortgage payment. They like to see that you can juggle things and you can handle it and handle it responsibly. So keep that in mind too. Look at the different types of debts that are available and that are out there for you. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, I have 4 collection accounts that are 4 years old. Do you suggest that I start making payments on them now?
Well, if you are looking at your credit, trying to make things better, when you're dealing with collections, you always want to deal with the most recent collection accounts first. So if you got something on your credit and it is showing that you still have a balance, you haven't talked to that creditor, you can set up payment arrangements with them. And keep in mind, like if it's a medical bill or old medical bill or something like that that's on there too, whatever payments you make will actually make you look better next month. So if you can only pay $10, do that. If you can pay more towards it, work on doing that. And sometimes you can talk to your creditors about seeing if they can accept a smaller balance, which is called a settlement. You can see about doing settlements on these accounts as well, because if they're collection accounts, they're already past due and they're that far gone, then a lot of times it's being sold to different collection agencies over the years, and it's hard for them to keep track of everything. So sometimes they're willing to take some money off of that as well. If you're looking at rebuilding, that may be an option for you. And again, it's always best to know what you're dealing with, so make a list of those collections. Don't be afraid to actually do research on the collection agencies as well. Sometimes you might find out that you're being contacted by a collection agency that may be, experiencing some trouble themselves. Or sometimes they're doing things ruthlessly. If you feel like they're harassing you, that's something you can think about. Look at their history, look at their report, contact the Better Business Bureau, look them up on the Better Business Bureau's website and see if they're actually reputable. If they made promises to you over the phone, like, hey, yeah, we can do this, we can take this payment arrangement, and then we'll wipe out this debt, or we'll take it off your credit report. Make sure you get whatever terms in writing so that they can stick by it and abide by it. So be careful when you're dealing with collection agencies, and we can talk about that in our show next week as well on dealing with collection agencies, because there's a way for you to deal with them that will have the best benefit for you, because you need to understand what rights you actually have with dealing with those collection agencies. So if you've got any other questions about dealing with collection agencies, feel free to call in. Again, we were talking about rebuilding after bankruptcy and maintaining a positive credit rating and credit record. So a few things that we touched on doing, of course, making sure you pay your bills on time, making sure that you have a nice credit mix, also looking at not going over your credit limits and staying within your credit limits too. So those are some tips that you want to look at when dealing with your credit and trying to keep things positive and just keeping things in order for yourselves. Because if you do those 3 things, if you pay attention to those 3 things, you'll notice that your score is maintaining on its own and even getting better over time. So you got that. We've got the changes that have come into play, of course, with the government as far as with the regulations on the credit bureau, as far as dealing with the medical bills and the collection agencies and the judgments. Remember a few months ago? Well, with the judgments, of course, if that information could not be verified and wasn't found out to be true, those were all removed from your credit report. So that made your score better. Then we looked at the collection agencies a few weeks ago with the regulations on the collection agencies for medical bills. Now, medical facilities, they had to wait at least 6 months before reporting those accounts to collection agencies, which means you could set up payment arrangements with the with the billing companies, and it wouldn't hit your credit report. So that's why I always recommend making whatever payments you can. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Yes, and good evening, and listen, happy holiday to all your listeners. And it's so wonderful to see one of the smartest women on CAN TV every time, every so often. You are here to help people. It's so good to see you. I got a quick question. 1,000 years ago, a person sit up and say, get this card, and say, for instance, if it's 3/4 of your credit limit. If it's 10,000, just do it. Take out 75%, pay it up the very next month. Just don't never touch that card no more. And that's how you get started of cards and your credit score going up. Do that still hold true right now? Because that same card that I got, which I don't use, it just steady go up so much. You know, they always want to raise the credit limit. Just keep on raising it, but don't use the card anymore. So do that help you or not? Like I said, this is what it used to be back in the day. I don't know if that still holds true right now, so I know you will have the answer. I'm not going to ask you this time about the tips because you said you're going to let us know very shortly about investing on something. So just let us know what day to look at that show so I can hear it. And if you can, please answer the question. Let me get out there, and you have a great day and a safe one.
Thank you for calling in, and we love you to call in with those questions like that. And your question actually is a really important one. And the reason why I say that is I was actually talking with someone earlier today, and they had the exact same question. They were saying that they had the credit card, and they were advised that they should take all the money off the credit card and make larger payments using the credit card too to get their score up. But the piece that they were missing was that if you take the advances like that, if you use the cards, it's always best to make sure that you're doing it responsibly. So if you've got a credit card and you're using an amount, you take off an amount on that card, you want to make sure that you do stay under that limit, or at least you pay it back before the due date. Because that's when you'll be paying less money on it. So it's all in how you do that. You do want to leave the credit card open as long as possible, and if they do increase the credit limit, make sure that you keep it open. Like, you may need to talk to them every now and then to make sure that they leave that account open. You may need to make a small purchase. So if you've got that $10,000 credit limit, just do something small, maybe $5 every now and then, so that they know you still want that account because you don't want them to close it. That's where your history is. That's what is important when you have these accounts, because yes, you want to show that you have this credit, you can handle it responsibly, you're not going anywhere near the credit limit, and that you've had it for a long time. So that's really important. It looks like we've got our next caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, I was looking at my credit report and 2 of my cards say they're charged off. What does that mean?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. When an account is charged off, that means that the creditor themselves, they don't feel they can get any money out of you. And with that being said, sometimes they decide to send it to a collection agency or an attorney at that time. When an account is charged off on your credit report, it affects your credit score, because now instead of it being reported as as not past due, now it's being reported as past due to the point where it's charged off, and so it will show as a 9 on your credit report. If you're current, it shows as a 1. So now you've just really drained that scale down to a 9. And so what happens, of course, it affects your credit score negatively. Another thing that people may misunderstand, they may think that if an account charged off, the creditor knows that they're not going to get money, so they don't have to pay it. But that's not the case at all. If your account is charged off, you are still responsible for making payments. You still need to pay that debt. And there's a time limit on how long you have before you can actually pay, before that you need to pay it off. And it's called the statute of limitations. And here in Illinois, it's about 7 years from the date the account went delinquent. You need to have made payments or restitution for that account. And if you can't do it, the creditor can't really come after you like they want to, which is why a lot of them will try and pursue legal action against you before that 7 years is up. Once you get down to that 7 years, they pretty much know that they're not going to get any money. But sometimes that doesn't even stop them from trying. Now, when an account, like I said, is charged off, they decide whether to send it to a collection agency or an attorney. Those are their two choices at that time. And usually an account charges off within 4 months, 4 to 6 months of you not making payments. Most credit card companies nowadays, they do after 4 months. Used to do after 6, but now it's 4. At that point, when they charge the account off, again, they can send it to an attorney or a collection agency. Most of the time, they will choose to send it to a collection agency. Why? Because there's a few different reasons. They feel like they can make more money off of it, or they're not really that concerned with the debt, or the balance may not be that much. If it's a high balance though, they're more likely to send it to an attorney. And that's when you want to get on the ball, make sure you set up payment arrangements with them, or do whatever you can to stop it from going to an attorney. One of the things that I always suggest too is knowing your lender, know your credit card company or who you're dealing with. Look and see, you can even ask them when you're applying for the account. If I don't make this payment, what happens? You can look online and find that out. Does this bank, or does this financial institution, does this credit union, do they charge accounts off? Do they send them to collection agencies? What collection agency do they use? You can do your research ahead of time too. That way you are more empowered if something happens and you find yourself in that situation. Now, can you rebound from a charge-off account? Yes, you can. So with all the tips that we share each and every single week, you can take that information and use that to make your situation better, to work on getting the collections off or to get them paid for, or even just finding some great advice on dealing with them. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, I was thinking about consolidating my credit cards, but I keep hearing horror stories about debt settlement companies ruining their credits. Do you know anything about settlement companies?
Well, you have to be careful when you're dealing with a settlement company. They're out there, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to use it. But typically, a settlement company would really work best in a situation where you're dealing with collection agencies or medical bills only. When you're dealing with those bills that you have had for years and you just don't know what to do. If you're dealing with regular debt, like just with collection agencies from credit cards or with credit card debt, you may want to look at a different avenue and even see about talking to a financial counselor or financial coach or a credit counselor to help you through those situations. Just be careful with dealing with settlement companies, because a lot of times, a lot of people find themselves putting so much money into it, and what happens is they end up ruining their financial outlook. And it's because these are the wrong type of people that are coming after you. They've got harsh tactics that they're trying to get you to sign up and go with their company, and sometimes you get taken advantage of. So do your research on the company. If you're looking at a settlement company, thinking about a settlement company, look them up. Contact the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, look at the Better Business Bureau, and see if that's something that you should consider. Look for alternatives though, things that you can do on your own, or talking to a counselor that will help you. Counselors are on standby. You can even ask them those types of questions. They're there to assist you, so you can ask them those questions about who should you contact, how do you get out of that hole, and how do you deal with the agencies, or if the debt settlement companies are right for you. That's something that they can help you with. You know, we're talking a bit about rebounding after bankruptcy and making things better after dealing with collection agencies. So always, always, always feel free to reach out and ask those questions. There's so much information out here. And of course, like I said, over the next few weeks, we will be doing an investing show, Investing 101. Now, can't offer you tips, but we can tell you how to invest in you and things that you should look out for, things that you should make sure you have together, such as your banking account, a financial institution that you want to look at, and those things that are going to make you stronger financially. So those are some tips and everything that we share with you. Again, feel free to reach out to a counselor. 800-994-3328. They're on standby, ready to answer your questions. They're able to answer your questions. There are so many different resources there. And then you are typically avoid those scams and those offers where they're taking your money, and you know how to empower yourself. Again, we'll see you next week. Call 312-738-1060 next week with your questions. Remember those, write those down. We'll talk to you then. Take care. Bye.